Welcome to the Daily Download, tech intelligence for leaders who move fast and think ahead. I'm your host, Brad Nelson, and today is Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. Here's what you need to know today. At RSA Conference 2025, cybersecurity architect Barbara Groff issued a wake-up call. Space assets like satellites are far more vulnerable to cyber attacks than most people realize, and you don't need to be a nation-state to pull it off. In her session, Space Assets Resiliency, Protecting Against Current Attack Techniques, Groff warned that every component of a satellite, from subsystems to onboard computers, can be compromised. Some attacks are as simple as using open source tools and $10 in gear to eavesdrop on multi-million-dollar satellites. Groff cited previous real-world incidents, including Russia's 2022 cyber attack on Viasat, which disrupted Ukrainian communications at the onset of war, and a Thales demonstration where a European satellite's positioning and camera were manipulated. She also emphasized the geopolitical challenge. Space is a legal and regulatory Wild West, where attribution is difficult and governance frameworks are limited. That ambiguity could embolden more covert attacks on satellites and space-based weapons. While space hacks may feel distant to many IT professionals, Groff stressed that space assets underpin daily life, from GPS and communication to critical infrastructure and global security. Her advice: use space security as a reminder to harden your own attack surface, improve threat intelligence sharing, and expand architecture reviews. Space may feel like the final frontier, but it's already part of our digital battlefield, and the sky is no longer the limit for cyber threats. Another one from RSA Conference 2025, cybersecurity leaders issued a stark warning. U.S. critical infrastructure remains dangerously vulnerable to cyber attacks, nearly 4 years after the Colonial Pipeline incident brought operational technology risks into the spotlight. Michael Garcia of CISA opened a panel by asking, "Have we done enough?" and answered bluntly, the answer is no. Despite greater awareness, sectors like energy, water, and healthcare still suffer from weak defenses, sluggish information sharing, and fragmented federal support. Panelists from the FBI, Southern Company, and the OT Cybersecurity Coalition cited nation-state attacks from China, Iran, and North Korea that have already infiltrated U.S. telecoms, utilities, and water systems. They stressed that public-private collaboration and threat intelligence sharing are essential, but acknowledged current systems are slow, confusing, and underfunded. Meanwhile, risk management agencies tasked with defending 16 critical sectors scored poorly in a new maturity model. Only energy and finance ranked as moderately prepared, and even those sectors scored just 3 out of 5. Cyber threats against critical infrastructure are escalating, and if we don't act fast, the next attack could disrupt more than just fuel lines. It could impact healthcare, clean water, or national security. The New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority is exploring the use of AI surveillance systems to detect and prevent crime before it happens on subway platforms. According to MTA Chief Security Officer Michael Kemper, the agency is piloting AI tools that could flag irrational or problematic behavior, potentially triggering a response from security or police before an incident escalates. The initiative is part of what Kempler describes as a move towards predictive prevention in public transit safety. Importantly, MTA officials clarified that the system will not use facial recognition. Instead, it will analyze behavior patterns, not individual identities. The MTA has already tested AI in other contexts, such as using machine learning to track fare evasion, and says it's currently working with undisclosed tech partners to test what might work in the subway system. As AI makes its way into public surveillance, the focus is shifting from watching who you are to how you act, and that raises questions about security, privacy, and how we define suspicious behavior. The Metals Company has just applied for the first U.S. permit to commercially mine the ocean floor, triggering a wave of backlash from scientists, environmental groups, and foreign governments. Backed by a recent executive order from President Trump, the company is aiming to sidestep the international process led by the International Seabed Authority, which has yet to finalize rules for deep-sea mining. Trump's administration claims it can authorize mining through a decades-old U.S. law, despite not being a signatory to the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. TMC's target is the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, a mineral-rich region of international waters between Hawaii and Mexico. It's loaded with polymetallic nodules containing nickel, cobalt, manganese, and copper, all critical minerals used in EVs, batteries, and national defense tech. The company claims it could harvest tens of millions of metric tons of these materials and has already invested over $500 million preparing to start. But critics say moving forward now is reckless. The seafloor in that zone is largely unexplored, with up to 90% of marine species there completely new to science. Conservation groups have labeled the move an act of total disregard for international law, while over 30 countries have called for a moratorium until global safeguards are in place. This is more than a mining permit. It's a global showdown over who gets to claim the deep sea, and at what environmental cost. The metals company in the US may be charging ahead, but the rest of the world might not be on board. Actress and director Natasha Lyonne is diving into the AI in Hollywood conversation with a new sci-fi project called Uncanny Valley, and it's being built with the help from generative AI. The film, co-written by Lyonne and the OA's Britt Marling, follows a teenage girl whose world is upended by a hyper-popular virtual reality game. Lyonne will direct and star in the film alongside Marling, but what's getting attention isn't just the story, it's how the film is being made. Uncanny Valley will use AI-generated visuals from Mary, a new text-to-video model created by startup Moon Valley. The project is being produced by Asteria, an AI-focused production studio co-founded by Lyonne and her partner Brian Moser. What sets Mari apart? According to Moon Valley, it's one of the first clean AI models trained entirely on licensed compensated content, in contrast to models that scrape copyrighted material without permission. The distinction could help Asteria avoid some of the controversy plaguing other AI-powered productions. Still, the bigger question looms. Can AI-generated cinema connect with audiences, or will it remain more of a tech flex than a storytelling breakthrough? Uncanny Valley isn't just a movie title, it's the very zone Hollywood is walking into, and what happens next may help shape how AI gets used and regulated in film production going forward. At Meta's LlamaCon conference this week, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella reveals that 20 to 30% of code in Microsoft's internal repositories is now being written by AI. The comment came during a conversation with Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, who asked how much of Microsoft's development is currently AI-assisted. Nadella noted that AI-generated code is seeing better results in Python, with slower progress in languages like C++. Microsoft CTO has previously predicted that by 2030, up to 95% of code could be AI-generated. Meanwhile, over at Google, CEO Sundar Pichai said on an earnings call last week that more than 30% of Google's code is now written by AI as well. However, none of the tech giants have made it clear how they're measuring AI-written code, so these numbers should be taken cautiously. The age of AI-assisted programming isn't coming, it's already here. But the bigger question is, how are companies defining AI-generated, and what does it mean for the future of software quality, jobs, and innovation? MasterCard is taking a big step towards making AI platforms fully transactional with the launch of Agent Pay, a new payments program designed to let users complete purchases directly within AI chat platforms like ChatGPT, Anthropic, and Perplexity. Traditionally, AI-powered search tools and agents can recommend products or services, but users still have to jump to a separate site to complete the transaction. Agent Pay claims to close the loop by integrating MasterCard's payment network directly into AI ecosystems, enabling secure, authenticated payments within the same interface. The program uses tokenization, not generative AI, to protect personal data and secure each transaction with unique encrypted identifiers. However, MasterCard does use AI models for fraud detection once transactions begin. The company has partnered with Microsoft, IBM, Braintree, Checkout.com, and others to scale the system and onboard both merchants and AI platforms. MasterCard is also working to integrate Agent Pay into Microsoft's Copilot and OpenAI services. With Agent Pay, AI agents could eventually search for suppliers, negotiate deals, draft contracts, and complete payments all in one streamlined workflow. It's a significant leap for agentic computing and the future of AI-powered commerce. Agent Pay could turn your AI assistant from a helpful search tool into a full-fledged digital deal maker, blurring the line between research, recommendation, and purchase. Starting July 1st, Microsoft will begin charging for a new no-reboot hot patching service for Windows Server 2025, allowing critical security updates to be applied without restarting the system, but at a price $1.50 per CPU core per month. The hot patching system previously in preview lets updates install directly into memory without interrupting services, improving uptime, speeding up patch deployment, and shrinking the window in which vulnerabilities remain unpatched. Microsoft says it's particularly useful for admins who typically delay patching due to reboot disruptions. However, only users of Windows Server 2025 Standard or Data Center editions connected to Azure Arc will be eligible, and they must subscribe to the service. Hot patching remains free for Windows Server Data Center Azure Edition users. While it won't eliminate restarts entirely, Microsoft says servers will still need to reboot quarterly for baseline updates. It does offer a smoother alternative to the traditional Patch Tuesday process. This hot patching subscription could bring huge benefits to uptime and security, but turning it into a paid subscription model has sparked criticism from IT pros, especially those managing large, multi-core server environments. And that brings us to today's tech tip. If you have Windows servers in your organization, here's a critical decision-making tip. Microsoft's new hot patching feature in Windows Server 2025 reduces downtime, but at $1.50 per core per month. For high core count servers, that adds up quickly. So before you subscribe, weigh your options. Calculate the true cost of patching downtime. Make sure you track how often patching forces a reboot and the business impact it causes. Factor in after-hours work, lost productivity, and the security risk from delayed updates. Then take that cost and compare it to the price of hot patching costs. For example, a 32-core server will cost $48 per month for hot patching. Multiply that across your entire server fleet. If the price of the hot patching service is less than your expected costs from downtime and such, it might be worth it for you. But you can also consider alternatives like switching to Linux for your servers. Modern Linux distros like Ubuntu LTS, Alma Linux, or Rocky Linux often support live patching for critical vulnerabilities. Many offer enterprise-grade support at a flat rate or free for self-managed environments. Linux servers typically require fewer reboots overall, even without hot patching. So if you're paying more to avoid downtime than it's worth, or if licensing is getting complicated, it might be time to reevaluate your infrastructure stack. This has been the Daily Download. All sources for today's stories will be in the description below. Today's episode is brought to you by FRCS Tech, your trusted partner for business technology solutions. We help growing businesses stay secure, efficient, and ahead of the curve. To learn more, visit us at frcstech.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.